Welcome to the Founder Family Podcast. My name is Chris Kwasi Coxon. I am an entrepreneur, author, and podcaster. And this show is about, you guessed it, innovation, entrepreneurship, and employability worldwide and especially in Africa. We get tips and strategies to collaborate, grow through stories of incredible change makers making waves in our world, from entrepreneurs, experts, to artists, community leaders, and beyond. Today I'm in Paris, France to report on the Viva Technology event, for which our partner Africa Arena organized an official side event to bring together African startups and investors from Europe and the US. And I received Mareme DIENG from 500 Global, USA.
Hi, my name is Mareme and I lead Africa 500 Global, VC firm based out of Silicon Valley, San Francisco, California. And I am very excited to be here today.
So at the very beginning of the week, we were with Viva Africa Arena. So that was the event organized by Africa Arena that you know well. On Monday, they organized a learning expedition. On Tuesday, there were some panels and you were one of the panelists. In the afternoon, they organized some pitch battles with the startups, and they made a selection. I think there was around 40 or so. 10 of them have been selected. They've pitched today, this morning, here at Vivatech. I would like to have your point of view on the startups, the different ecosystem in Africa. I understand that you are an investor, and maybe you can present that part as well, but you have a visibility of startups ecosystem on different countries on Africa. Can you please talk about it?
I think overall it's a very exciting time for founders. If you're an African founder, and if you're just a founder targeting Africa as a geography, I think it's a very exciting time. I think obviously we are seeing a lot of activities in the big foreign markets, and for sure Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and Kenya represent a very big part of the startup activity, especially over the last 5 years. So those are countries where we've seen consistency in investment numbers. We've also seen consistent growth. And we are starting to see success stories. So we're starting to see in those markets mega rounds. We're seeing acquisitions happen. And those are also, two markets where we're seeing companies raise, at least be able to reach later stages. So I think for sure those we talk about enough. I think there is still, a few other countries where we're also seeing now, some spur of growth. We will wait the next 2-3 years to see if that growth is consistent, but at least I think it's safe to say that Ghana, Senegal, as well as Morocco are countries where we are seeing some level of activities. I will include in that Uganda as well. And I really do believe that those are countries, if they continue on the path that they are in right now, there is definitely untapped potential. And then I think there are countries in general where we haven't been seeing that much activity, but those countries are very important market due to either their size or either their positioning, their strategic positioning. And I think that for the most part, I will include Ethiopia in there because, Ethiopia is a very big market. I will also put Tanzania as well because I think there is so much untapped potential there. I could also safely and truly also include countries that are like, Ivory Coast, which we're also seeing some momentum come up. So, and Rwanda and Tunisia, where we've seen some activities as well, where it's a strategic positioning because the governments are doing a lot in bringing in activity.
So basically, you give us an overview of the different ecosystem, but can you please introduce what do you do? Because I know you as an investor, but I guess there is more to it.
Yes. So I am, I lead our Africa strategy. So my role very much entails in looking at everything we're doing on the continent from a 360 perspective. So I'm not just looking at it from an investor perspective. I'm also looking at it from a ecosystem development perspective. I'm also looking at it from a founder perspective. I'm also looking at it from a private and public sector perspective, because we work with so many different type of stakeholders that we need to think about how those things coordinate. But also because what I've seen is that the collaboration and synergies and complementarity of private and public sector, as well as governments, corporates, investors, founders, and regulators, is quite crucial in enabling startup ecosystems. So not just looking at it from a investing in how that investment thesis go, but really trying to think about the whole 360 view, and what we as 500 can do to help accelerate that growth.
All right. Do you focus on specific sectors? To basically, the other day you were on the panel with Ben, Zach, etc. And I don't remember if it was part of the panel or the discussion afterwards, but basically the idea was, I think that was Zach saying that most of the time country will start by the fintech sector, which to him made sense because officially whatever you do at one point you will need to pay, and a lot of people in Africa are actually unbanked. But he said that usually after that then you go through the different sectors. So what do you look when you invest or when you build an ecosystem?
So we are sector agnostic. So that means that we invest in all sectors. I agree with Zach in the extent that fintech is a key part of building infrastructure. I think that, there is fintech as a service and for the sake of building financial services. And then there is fintech as an infrastructure and for the sake of building financial inclusion. And, I very much agree that in the second scenario, which is when fintech is as an infrastructure for financial inclusion, it's very strategic to look at that first when you're going into a new market that you're investing in, because, any type of company that is looking to do some level of B to B to C or B to C will need to be able to build payment infrastructure, because in order to provide services, there needs to be a way to pay. So I agree with that. That being said, I think that Africa as a continent is very unique in the sense that we have many challenges, and those challenges are actually our biggest strength, because those challenges means that we have a lot of opportunities. We have a lot of opportunities in a lot of sectors, and we need a lot of infrastructure to be built. So it's not just about payment services. It's also about building logistics infrastructure. It's building education infrastructure. It's building health infrastructure. And for those reasons, I really do feel like, from an investment perspective, fintech can be very strategic in a lot of markets, but as well, I think a lot of other sectors can be very strategic because, like I had mentioned on the panel, Africa is 60% below the age of 25. So 60% of the population is below 25. That means...
And growing as well.
And growing every single year. I mean, I was also just giving the example of Senegal. Senegal, we were 12 million people in 2015. Today, Senegal is 18 million people, 30% almost of population growth in 5 years. I mean, the numbers are exciting and scary at the same time, because what that means is we have a upcoming generation of children, of kids that need education, that need health, because if they don't have, and that need to be fed, so they need food. And if that does not happen, that might build some really intense and worrisome insecurity issues for the continent, because if you're having a growing youth population and you cannot provide them either with education nor health nor food, then you are actually pushing them to take the route of delinquents, and you're pushing them to take the route of insecurity, and I think we can all safely agree that we don't want that. So really? I think yes, fintech, wonderful, payment infrastructure, but also
everything
health tech, ed tech, food tech, agri-tech, we need those. We need those.
So when you look at an investment, what are the criteria? What are the processes that you put in place before actually? Well, I guess you've got the selection process, then you invest. But can you tell us about it?
So for us, the first thing we look at always, I mean, there's a few things, but we definitely look at the founder's solution. So we want to see the problem solution fit, right? So does your solution actually solve the problem that you're stating? Then we look at the founders. It's very important to look at the quality of the team, quality of the founders, the experience that they may have had previously, and why they are the best team solving this. The beauty about entrepreneurship and about tech startups in general is that you have a lot of companies solving the same problem with the same solution, right? So in that case, the differentiation factor really comes down to the team, right? Which team is actually the best at execution. So I think from that perspective, we look at the founders. We take some time to be able to make sure that these founders are, speaking with the team. So they go through group interviews. We try to really get to the bottom of what they do and why they do it and how they do it. And then we obviously make them go through different ICs, depending on the funds, to actually make an investment decision. So if I was to say to founders listening in, the three things that are definitely important for them to have is definitely there should be a solution problem fit.
Yeah.
So their solution should actually fit the problem. And they should not just blindly pursue a solution. It actually should be solving the problem. There should be a founder problem fit, right? So the founders should be able to be the right people to solve that problem because they've either fully understand it or they've experienced it. And then there should be a team execution fit. The team should be able to execute as excellently as possible, and there should be the more competitive team on the market.
Are you selective about the problems? Obviously, there are many problems that one team can solve. You were talking about the fact that you were talking about health. Usually in Africa, we hear, depending on the countries, but what comes very often is infrastructure, health, feeding the population, etc. Are these topics the one that you are looking especially, or are there maybe others, or you're just getting the proposition and then based on that, based on what you have, then you make a selection?
So we usually really, we take the time to look at each company very specifically and very individually. So, of course, sometimes we get companies who are doing the same thing at the same time. But when it comes to being selective about the problems, I think we try to make sure that the companies that we're investing in are solving real problems, especially because we're investing in emerging markets. So for us, it's quite important to find companies that really are addressing real problems that those countries are experiencing, where their solution has a net positive contribution to the country. So, that's very important from our investment perspective. And I personally usually always say, when you think about why people start businesses or why people do anything in general, when it comes to building companies, we are either trying to improve the quality of life or we are trying to increase the length of life, right? So we're either trying to help people live longer or we want them to live better. So, our solutions, when you look at it from a philosophical perspective, at some point it gets to, this will make your life better. It will make it more convenient. It will make it more easy. It will make it more adaptable. Or this will make your life longer. Like, it will help you live longer. It will make you healthier. It will make you smarter. So all of those things. And so I think from a philosophical perspective, you could always tune those to that, but from a fund perspective, from an investment, we definitely try to make sure that they are solving relevant problems. We are not cherry picking the importance of those problems, right? So I wouldn't say that one company solving a better problem than others. I think that's a very foul route to get into, to try to classify, because technically all problems are problems depending on who your audience is. So I think there is a strong desire to support companies that are addressing problems that are relevant, and making sure to support them in doing so.
In terms of officially, when we talk about investments, we talk about money.
Yeah.
What levels of money? I mean, usually we talk about tickets.
Yeah.
What are the different tickets that or what are the stages of the startups that we're investing in usually?
We usually invest at the seed stage, pre-seed to seed, and our average ticket sizes usually are about $150,000. So it's quite straightforward. I mean, we work within the X-Root fund model that's very clear. So it's pre-seed, seed, early stage in general, and we try to get that.
Okay, and usually when you found a company, are you trying to, I guess, depending on the size of the company and the size of the country, the market they're actually evolving in, most of the company might want to expand. Is it as well a criteria that you take into account? Expanding to other countries, maybe in the region or somewhere else?
Of course, yes. I mean, that's hopefully the goal for a lot of them. I mean, sometimes also companies are just, very happy in their domestic market and want to stay that. But honestly, in emerging markets, usually the companies want to expand because they have neighboring countries, neighboring regions that have exactly the same problems, and they have a solution that works and that could solve that problem. So why not extend it to them? So, in emerging markets, we've usually seen that companies have a very strong desire to expand because they know that their neighboring countries may experience similar issues, and also it just allows them to be a little bit more viable and profitable if they're able to be active in many different markets.
All right. For a company who wants to actually get some funding and wants you to invest in, how do actually do they reach you?
To reach us, they should, first of all, my email is mareme.dieng@500.co. So it's my first name dot my last name at 500.co. So they could always send companies to us. They could also find us on LinkedIn, find me or find anybody else from our team to send their information. They can also apply online. We have our rolling basis application for funding, pre-seed and seed funding, where they can actually apply directly on our website and we will see the application come through.
Okay, thanks for that. Any final word before we wrap up?
No, I think, it's a great time to build a company. It's a great time to build a company in Africa. This is, if you're a founder, all of us are rooting for you. We are trying to make sure we're building a system in which it's easy for you to build and solve issues, but it's an exciting time to build companies. Like I said, we're all rooting for founders, and especially African founders. I mean, I'm so proud of, I was just saying that throughout this week at different events, I'm so proud of how much the African ecosystem has grown, how much more sophisticated African founders are becoming, and I think we don't say that often enough, and maybe they don't hear us say that enough, but we are so proud. I am personally so proud. Now, whenever I see pitch decks, when I see founders pitch at events, earlier I saw some companies, I mean, this is fantastic. They are now able to articulate themselves so much better. I'm seeing founders from different countries speak different languages and actually pitch in different languages, Anglophones learning French, Francophones learning English. So, sometimes it's important to just take some time to say we're very proud.
Subscribe to our social medias and our newsletter. Find all the details in the description and feel free to share.